G'day everyone, we're up to number 9 in my top 20 albums countdown, and there's been some pretty heavy stuff along the way. If you're not such a fan of hard rock, hopefully this one might appeal to you. One of the lighter choices in this selection. Having said that, still very much a rock album, and in my opinion, this band's finest hour. And I'm speaking of American band R.E.M, and this is their fourth album, Life's Rich Pageant, which came out about midway through 1986. In Australia, not necessarily that well known. It was probably their next album, Document, which broke them in this country at least with the single The One I Love. Also had It's the End of the World as We Know It. Great songs, both of them. And following that, they had Green, which had Orange Crush, which was quite a big hit in these parts. But this album, I must admit, I didn't discover this until after I'd heard those two LPs, but I'm so glad I did. For me, they have an extensive catalogue, R.E.M, but this, for mine, is clearly the pick of it. What do I love about this album? I think it's a really seamless blend of rock and pop. And the band is really tight on this record, a really seamless unit musically speaking. We're talking about Michael Stipe's vocals, which seem to be mixed a bit louder on this record and seem to be less of a background noise, certainly to the forefront of the mix. Bill Berry on drums, of course, Peter Buck on guitar, and Mike Mills on bass. What I love about this record is its upbeatness, if I can invent a word there, and it starts like that and really continues throughout most of it. Starts with Begin the Begin, which is a favourite of R.E.M fans, I think. Next is close to my favourite R.E.M song, actually, These Days. Quite up-tempo and definitely also classed as a rock song. Fall on Me is quite beautiful, actually. It's I wouldn't say a ballad, but it's quite a plaintive, I guess, plea from Stipe, but beautiful guitar, beautiful harmonising in the vocal parts too with him and the other members of the band. Ditto the next track, Cuyahoga, which is, they really explored some themes about ecology and preservation of the environment in this album. Cuyahoga is about a river which had been polluted. Again, that is a beautiful song and a very evocative song. I often get quite emotional listening to that. Again, like a lot of stuff, takes me back to a certain time and place when I was younger and the world was a bit simpler and less complex than it is today. And then Hyena, another real upbeat rock/pop song. It ventures a bit more in side two. Flowers of Guatemala is an interesting track, a slower track. What If We Give It Away is another superb song, I think. And again, great harmonies in the choruses, really interesting lyrics. A lot of this album is, I wouldn't say romantic, but it's exploring more human themes, I guess. I mentioned the environment, but love and loss, and I don't often get this soppy, but I do find I get emotional listening to this record. I think it's a beautiful record, but I think it stands up as a rock album as well, and it's poppy. Look, it did well for them commercially, not as well as subsequent releases. Obviously, I mentioned Green after that. They'd go on and really get massive, of course. Losing My Religion, probably the biggest song they ever had in these parts. And look, they continued on for a long while and did some really good stuff. But for me, this is really R.E.M at their peak. I love the songwriting. I love the playing. I think it's mixed really well. There's so it's interesting. Some records in the mid-'80s had a terrible production sound to them, those synth-sonic drums, and everything was sort of lacking in texture and, sound like you're being hit with a brick. And this isn't like that. You're really hearing the acoustics of the guitars, even when they're plugged in. and the drums meld very seamlessly with it, and the vocal tracks just complement it perfectly. So, you know, brilliantly produced, and I think that adds to it as well. They've done a lot of stuff, R.E.M, and a lot of really good stuff. I don't think their albums come any better than this one. And if you haven't heard it and you do like a lot of R.E.M stuff you've heard, please make sure you have a listen to this, because I don't think they ever got better than this. Life's Rich Pageant is the name of the album, from 1986 by R.E.M, and hopefully you'll check it out. I think it's a worthy holder of the number 9 position in this top 20. We'll be back shortly with number 8.